Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I want to do a Rittenhouse jury verdict analysis for the benefit of these leftist news organizations like CNN, MNSBC, or whatever they call themselves, ABC, a few others out there that are surprised at the um, of the jury verdict for Rittenhouse. Right, the jury pronounced him not guilty of all charges. So they're surprised. They're like, how could they have come to this conclusion, right? So to the rest of us out here in the countryside, it's kind of obvious, right? But let's for a second look at it from the perspective of these people in the cities. Okay, they follow completely different logic. The laws are they're based on a completely different logic. It's almost like we're living in two separate countries, right? You got the cities, and then you got the countryside around the cities. Okay, so it doesn't matter where it is. Like even like New York State, right? You got New York City, right, which is nuts, right? Lefty nuts, and then you've got the rest of the state, which is fairly conservative, and it just so happens that they don't have enough votes in the countryside, to basically control their state, right? So the city ends up controlling the whole state. So anyway, the thing I wanted to talk about, right? Here's the thing. There's a reason why I live in the countryside. I don't go to cities, all right? I don't go to cities. I try to avoid them at all costs. And the reason is because if I go to a city, I'm subject to their laws. And if I get into any trouble, I'm going to end up in their courts, and I'm going to end up being judged by a jury of their people. Okay, and I don't want to put myself in that situation, because even if let's say I end up in the city and I do find myself in the self-defense type of situation, I know that jury over there is most likely going to find me guilty no matter, what the circumstances are. Okay, so the opposite is true, right? When you, let's say, come into the countryside, right, and you commit a crime, you're going to end up in a court in the countryside, okay, and you're going to end up with a jury that's composed of people like me, all right, because I live in the countryside. I got a clean record. I'm the type of person that would end up on a jury, okay? Now, I'm 50 years old, right? So it's not likely that, let's say there were riots in this area, it's not likely that I would do written style type heroics where I'm going out there in the middle of the night, leaving my home, right? Going out in the middle of the night, trying to do community service, right? That's not something I would do at my age, right? But there's a good chance that I would end up on a jury, okay? So if I were, let's say, sitting on that Rittenhouse jury, okay, on the one hand I have the defendant, right, who has I'm presented with a clear record of community service in my community, okay. On the other hand, I'm presented with his accusers, who have a criminal record, right, and were, and basically there's evidence that they were in the community being destructive, okay. Um, so beyond just the evidence of the case being presented, like let's say that video evidence, right? Because here's the thing: when you look at the video evidence, I mean, yeah, it looks like Rittenhouse is being pursued, all right. But let's say it wasn't so clear cut, right? Let's say it wasn't so clear cut. It comes down to credibility, right? And there's many cases where you can argue that, right? For example, very typical, people have kids, right? Like I got kids. Well, I know who are the troublemakers, right? I know which of my kids are the troublemakers, and I know which of my kids are generally the good kids, right? So when the two of them get into a fight, right, and my daughter, right, she's the good one, says that my son, who's mostly the bad one, when she says that he hit her first, I tend to believe her, okay? Just because of credibility, right? So that's the natural thing, right? Credibility counts for things, okay? So in a case like this, right, where you have two sides, and essentially each side is saying he started, the other guy started it, right? Just like when you have kids fighting, right? They were saying that, the prosecutor was saying that Rittenhouse provoked the incident, right? And Rittenhouse, his lawyer was saying that no, Rittenhouse was purely defending himself. All right, you're looking at the video. Realistically speaking, I mean, the video's kind of dark. I mean, yeah, you can see that he's being pursued, but we don't know what happened before that. We don't know what happened 10 minutes before that, right? So, as an impartial juror, I mean, I can look at the video and I can say, well, yeah, it looks like this, but who knows what's being said? I can't really see their hands, right? I can't see the details of their hands, but I think that credibility counts for a lot. Okay, when there's evidence of somebody like Rittenhouse, who was basically doing community service, cleaning up graffiti in my neighborhood, right, earlier that day, versus Rosenbaum, right, there's evidence, or actually the prosecutor himself admitted that that he was starting fires, right, setting garbage cans on fire. Well, there's a credibility issue here, right? So if each of these persons or each of these sides is saying that the other side started it, right? Why should I believe Rosenbaum over Rittenhouse, right? It's clear that one guy has a history of doing good things, the other guy has a history of doing bad things. Okay, so as a juror, that's something that's going to that I'm going to consider, right? So, and here's the thing. It comes down to who your jury is, and if you're a city person that leaves the city and goes into the countryside or into the suburbs with the intention of rioting, okay, you're going to end up a court in that area with a jury from that area, okay? And they're probably not going to be really happy with the fact that you were there rioting, and they're probably going to be very partial to the person that stood up and tried to stop it, okay? So there's something, again, this video is intended for the, for the leftists, right, who don't understand the outcome of this verdict, right? Why did the jury conclude what it concluded? I mean, this is a clear case of good guy, somebody with a history of doing good things versus somebody with a history of doing bad things. And that's probably, I mean, to me, that would probably be one of the things I would focus on a lot, that I would pay a lot of attention to, because, again, the video evidence, I mean, yeah, I mean, it kind of looks clear, but hey, what if it wasn't clear? Or what if there was no video evidence at all, right? All you have is one side saying this, one side saying that. Who do I believe? Well, I'll believe the guy that has a history of community service over the guy that has a history of, of committing crimes and has a conviction, okay? So just something to consider. Hope this is useful. And again, this is mostly intended for the people that don't understand how the jury reached its conclusion. So thanks for watching. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe. Talk to you guys soon.